Ethan Lancaster was a cold, ruthless billionaire. For him, there was only one rule in the business world: emotions have no place, not even in love. That's why, years ago, he had lost the most important person in his life, Claire Dawson. But he had moved on. Or so he thought. That day, Ethan was having lunch at an upscale restaurant with one of his closest business partners. They were deep in contract negotiations when a voice pulled him back to the past. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Ethan looked up, and his blood ran cold. Standing before him was Claire Dawson, the woman he hadn't seen in years. But what truly shocked him was the little girl by her side, a girl with steel blue eyes, just like his. Ethan stared at Claire in disbelief. "Claire, what are you doing here?" She shifted her gaze away. "I wasn't expecting to see you either, Ethan. We just moved here." Something inside Ethan cracked, but his mind was fixated on one thing. His eyes drifted to the little girl. Who is she? Claire took a deep breath. Then, the words spilled from her lips. "She's your daughter, Ethan." In that instant, Ethan's entire world came crashing down. Ethan's ears were ringing. "She's your daughter, Ethan." Those words burned into his mind. He was a father? No one had ever told him. How was this even possible? Ethan sat frozen at the table. His eyes were locked onto Claire. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked, his voice unsteady. Claire shook her head. "No, Ethan. Lily is your daughter." Ethan felt his heart pounding in his chest. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep this from me for years?" Claire let out a deep sigh. "Because your life was your work, Ethan. I didn't think you'd make time for her." Ethan clenched his jaw. "You didn't even give me a choice." Claire looked away. "Maybe you're right. But I wanted you to know she's here. If you ever want to see her, our door is open." Ethan sat there completely stunned. A whole new life had just opened up in front of him. But was he ready to be a father? For the first time in his life, Ethan Lancaster had no idea what to do. He had made some of the toughest decisions in the business world, closed million-dollar deals with a single sentence. But now, standing right in front of him was a little girl, and the thought of her calling him Dad completely shook him. That night, Ethan stood in front of the massive window of his luxury apartment. The city lights stretched before him, dazzling as always. But in his mind, there was only one image: Lily. Claire had told him the door was open, but did he have the courage to walk through it? "I can't be a father," he muttered to himself. "I'm strong in the business world, but I have no idea how to be a dad." When he looked back at his own childhood, his father had been a distant, cold man, never showed emotion, never expressed love, and Ethan was terrified of becoming that same man. What if he disappointed Lily? What if he ended up being just as cold as his own father? But then Claire's words echoed in his head. "If you want to see her, our door is open." Ethan let out a slow breath. He was scared, but he couldn't let fear hold him back. Finally, he made his decision. He was going to meet Lily. But was it too late to fix his past mistakes? Ethan parked his car in front of Claire's street. A part of him wanted to turn around, but he couldn't. Not this time. He took a deep breath, adjusted his jacket, and looked at himself in the rearview mirror. This wasn't just another business meeting. This was the most important conversation of his life. For the first time, he was about to meet his daughter. Ethan knocked on the door a few times, but it wasn't Claire who answered. It was Lily. She stood in the doorway, staring up at him with wide, curious eyes. Ethan froze. Lily looked at him, tilting her head slightly. "Hi?" she said in a tiny voice. Ethan felt his throat tighten. For the first time, he was afraid of saying the wrong word. "Hi, Lily," he finally managed to say. Lily studied him for a moment. "My mom's inside. Who are you?" That question hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. Who was he? Was he her father? Or just a stranger? Before he could respond, Claire appeared at the door. Lily glanced up at her mom, her curiosity evident. "Lily, sweetheart, why don't you go inside for a minute? We have a guest." Lily hesitated for a second, then ran back inside. Claire turned to Ethan, arms crossed. "You actually showed up?" she said, a little surprised. Ethan nodded, still feeling the weight of Lily's words. "I want to get to know her, Claire, but I don't know how." Claire sighed, softening just a little. "The only way to do that, Ethan, is to be real with her. Not as a businessman, not as someone trying to fix things overnight. Just as a person." Ethan took in her words carefully. From now on, he wasn't just Ethan Lancaster, the businessman. He had to learn what it meant to be a father. Ethan sat in Claire's living room, feeling more nervous than he ever had in a boardroom. This wasn't about business. This was about trust, and trust wasn't something he could buy. Lily sat on the floor across the room, quietly playing with her dolls. Ethan watched her, unsure of what to do. "What now?" he thought. Then, slowly, he took a deep breath and pushed himself to move. He sat down on the floor, close, but not too close. "So, what are their names?" he asked gently. Lily looked up, her little face skeptical. "Why do you want to know?" she asked, eyeing him carefully. Ethan gave a small smile. "Because I used to play with toys when I was little too." Lily raised an eyebrow. "You did?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, but I didn't have many. I grew up in a family that worked all the time, so most of the time I just made up stories in my head." Lily's expression softened just a little. After a moment, she hesitated, then picked up a doll and handed it to him. "This one's my favorite. Her name is Rosie." Ethan took the doll carefully. It was a simple moment, but in that moment, something shifted. A wall began to crumble. From the kitchen, Claire watched them closely. She saw Ethan putting in effort, really trying. For the first time, he wasn't just showing up out of guilt. He was actually listening. She smiled softly to herself, but she knew trust wasn't built in a day. Being a father wasn't about just showing up. It was about staying. And Claire still wasn't sure if Ethan was capable of that. Ethan had been spending time with Lily for days now. With every visit, he got to know her a little more, learned a little more. But no matter what he did, Lily still didn't fully trust him. And today, that trust would be put to the test. Lily sat across from Ethan at the kitchen table. A coloring book was in front of her, but she stopped coloring and looked up at him. "Why are you here now?" Ethan froze. He wasn't ready for that question. "Because I want to get to know you, Lily." Lily tilted her head. "But I've always been here. Where were you?" Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had survived the ruthless world of business, but this question carried a weight unlike anything he had ever faced. This little girl. She had needed him, and he hadn't been there. But he wasn't going to run anymore. He took a deep breath, and for the first time, spoke with complete honesty. "I know, Lily. I lived for a long time without knowing you, and that was my mistake, but from now on I'll be here if you'll have me, always." Lily thought for a moment. Then, she quietly went back to coloring. "Okay." Ethan let out a small smile, because he knew that one simple word was the biggest step forward. A few weeks later, Ethan arrived at Lily's house again, but this time he had a plan. When Claire opened the door, Ethan held up 2 tickets. "I want to take you both to the amusement park this weekend." Claire smiled. Lily grabbed the tickets excitedly, and for the first time, she threw her arms around Ethan in a hug. Ethan hesitated for a moment. Then he wrapped his arms around her tightly. This was only the beginning. But for the first time, he truly felt like a father.
If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Subscribe for more inspiring stories.